Back into open session, start 7:00. 7:01. Consent calendar. Any questions?
Motion to approve.
I'll second.
No questions?
I just had one. Is the, those shots, structures,
Give me a number. 8260?
8260.
Yeah.
Is that for the
Yes.
pool house?
Mhm.
Okay, I thought that was all wrapped up already.
It is. This is actually not the contractor. This
Did they
is,
do more?
this is the engineering designer, and this was his billing dating from February through just for construction
Oh, okay.
oversight, and then to produce the final letter and the notice of completion for his portion of the project.
Okay, cool. And the other one I had was Jorge's tree service, 8270.
8270 Jorge's Park Tree,
Yeah,
Fallen
the-
Trees, Urbana Court.
Trimming and then fallen trees.
Yep.
That was that email that you.
No, this
Urbana
was,
Court is somewhere
it's
else.
in Lucas Valley Estates.
Yeah.
Just regular service that needed. We had a tree that fell kind of in open space, but very proximity to somebody's private property there, and they came up and limbed it out and cut it up for us.
But that goes to the NWPA portion?
Let me see on this one. That one did, yes, but the work with the work that they did, just kind of cleaning and lightening up trees throughout the park.
Okay, all right.
No, not the park, not this normal stuff that we do, but on things like this, that was a defensible space
Okay,
expense.
all right.
That's why it's broken up, basically.
Thank you for doing that.
Any other questions?
And he charges by the day.
That's why it'd be.
That's how they base their fee. That's how most of the places base their fee.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Passed. Public comment.
Oh, wow.
I got lots.
You didn't know it.
A little surprised.
Done. District matters. Budget.
Great. Sorry, I should time my water.
I know, we had a lot of.
Let's work on that. I did that last time. All right, well, the budget at this point is nothing that we haven't seen for the last two meetings. Not a lot of changes since the last one. Just really quickly on the adjustments that have been made. Were final projections on our ad valorem property tax. Some fire department supplies and equipment expenditures, which mostly had to do with bringing things up to current cost. Because we kind of have a routine replacement schedule that we use for a lot of their PPE and wildland gear that needs to be replaced over. We have it all scheduled out, so this brings it up to current costs on everything. Water sewer was the final utility that I was just kind of waiting to get more data on. And then we did add, and I'll talk about it in a minute, another capital outlay on the rec side. Actuals, this isn't an exercise in looking at the actuals, but they're there for your reference through 4/30. You'll note that they look much higher than they're gonna be stated at the end of the year. That's because $977,000 of them is going to be deferred revenue to next fiscal year. That basically represents money we receive this year for programs that don't happen until after July 1st when we quote unquote earned the revenue. Still to be incorporated, there is, again, we're in current negotiations with the firefighter working group, firefighter labor group. None of that is reflected into this budget at this point in time. It's just stated as if nothing changes in terms of that. But whatever comes out of that will have to be approved in the form of a MOU, in the form of a public meeting. And depending on the overall impact to the budget, we can always do a secondary budget amendment at that time too, to bring your overall budget up to speed. as of April 30th, cash balance is still sitting very well. We had a total cash balance of about 8.7 million, 600,000 of which are held as board designated reserves, and 200,000 of that is designated as MWPA expenditures. That does not include the 260,000 rotating balance that we keep in our payroll account, which is through Bank Marin, not through our general treasury, so those assets are there as well. Taking all of that into account, we were more closer to 7.9 million in terms of net cash balance, non-restricted, which is still an increase of approximately 200,000. That's much more shallow increase growth rate than we have had for the last several years. But this also takes into account that we have spent about 680,000 on this emergency creek bank project back there as well, which hopefully we get the majority of reimbursed, but as you'll hear later, I still don't have a lot of update for you on that part of it. So in summary, kind of looking at it right now, it has a conservative net operating gain of just under 540,000. That continues with the $100,000 contributions into the OPEB trust and another $100,000 contribution into the board designated reserves. Both of those get booked at year end. So with that, my recommendation is certainly to adopt the budget as currently presented. Just a couple of the quick things to go over. I'm not going to go over every little detailed note I gave you here, but for our current secured property tax, which is the largest of the Avalon property taxes that we receive, I budgeted it at 1% above what I'm expecting to get this year. That's very conservative. We've been exceeding that, but there has been some rumblings that they are not expecting the growth rate to remain the same, and the growth rate's actually probably going to slow down a little bit over the next few years. I don't think it'll slow all the way down to 1%, but I'd rather under budget and overachieve than the other way around on that. Workers' comp and our property liability, I still don't have final numbers. They keep kind of refining it a little bit. I actually think workers' comp is probably going to wind up maybe a little bit more expensive than what I wound up budgeting, but not significantly, as I'm just waiting on them to set their final kind of base rates. And then I actually think we're going to come in pretty darn close on the general insurance. They've kind of revised, anticipating a 12 to 15% over what we paid last year, and I plugged that in at 15%. And that does not factor in any sorts of longevity distributions or multi-policy discounts or anything like that. I'd rather just do it straight, and then when the bill comes in a little bit lower, hooray. But I want to make sure we have it all. On the park department, for salaries, regular staff, this does maintain the wage increase that was shared with the board in February and then incorporated in the budget everywhere through. That was a 6%. Total impact is $16,225 for the park staff, so it's not a huge impact. But it is in this budget. I will come back to you next month with the annual pay schedules, where you will make that a formal approval. And then on the capital outlay, the only item that we had on capital outlay, we've been talking about it forever, is the need to replace the John Deere. Luke has got current pricing, and that's because it has happened. The John Deere is moving on. It has found its last leg, I believe, and rather than putting another $1,500, $2,000 into that, Luke has actually gone ahead and ordered a new one. So that won't be in until probably end of summer. What was the update on that?
I mean, probably early fall.
Early fall.
So it's 17.5.
Yep. So that's budgeted in there. Has been on the rec side, same situation with the salaries for for all the rec staff. 4.5%, $18,157 was the total cost impact of that. It's into the budget. And on the capital outlay, the one thing I wanted to bring up, and I'm actually Luke can talk a little bit more about this. It's one of those things that it works until it stops working. The pool pump and motor definitely needs to be replaced. They came in one day and it was howling at them out there, making a lot of noise. It just means it's starting, the internal mechanisms are going out. Luke is already Johnny on the spot with our preferred pool equipment mechanic and vendor. The things have been ordered. I left it in the budget for next year, just in case that's how long it kind of takes for everything to get in and get done and get billed and get paid. We do have room within the capital for this year anyway, just by kind of moving around some of the things that we had kind of contingency budgeted, so it's not like we're gonna wind up going way over budget. If we can pull it off this year, our goal is hopefully to get this thing done ideally within the next few weeks. Because once that stops working, the pool's closed.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Understand.
Yeah, no, he's already, Luke, I commend Luke, he moved very quickly on that, got in touch with our guy, expressed a sense of urgency, who then moved some of his scheduling around, and now they're just waiting on the parts to come in, and we will wind up having to shut the pool down for a few days, but Luke can talk more about that later in his report. I was talking about how it's budgeting the costs. And then finally on the fire side, capital outlay includes still the installation of the partition walls in the bunk room. We are moving forward with that at this point in time. Unfortunately, that is absolutely going to require a permit, building permit from the county, which means we got to move in, get an architect to do some drawings, stamp drawings, put together the submittal package. So that's where we've already been working on. I've got a few references for architects. One is actually the architect that we used for the kitchen when that was redone several years ago. They were down in Belmarin Keys. Jeff Smith, who's also a licensed contractor engineer with the fire department, has got a lot of connections in there. So he's been reaching out and getting us some recommendations of architects who his colleagues have used. So we're making those calls and explaining to them what's needed. We have concept. In fact, I tipped my cap to Jeff. He put together a lot of nice concept drawings, did a lot of the measurements already, but Jeff is not a licensed architect, so we can't, those won't work for our submittal. They need stamp
Still gonna
plans.
have to pay some money for
Yeah, hopefully not too much, you know, hopefully somewhere architect fees, 5 to 7 probably when it's said and done. It's not super cheap, but 4 or 5 sheets is what they'll most likely need to put together. You know, the big plotted sheets that we'll have to turn in with our application. The county will ding us a little bit for that. It'll definitely slow the process, but the ball is rolling and it's going to happen. That's the project that I've now shifted to getting done because I want to see it get done. So, with other projects coming off the plate, I'm squeezing this in quickly before the next thing breaks and requires all of my attention. And, otherwise, any questions?
This is great, thank you for all the work that you put in.
Yeah, it's really, it makes it super clear and transparent and easy to follow.
Yeah, I typed the report, but, you know, Luke, the fire captains, everybody helped out in getting a lot of the research and the numbers that were needed, looking at things, sitting down, talking about the capital stuff, talking about supplies and equipment and everything that would be needed over there, hose replacement. So there's a lot of people that do work. I appreciate what you're saying, but I want to pass credit that I don't
Thank
just
you.
sit there and do this in a vacuum.
Yeah.
Thank you to all
Thoroughly
involved.
appreciate it.
Can I just ask the piece on the streetlights?
Yes.
Us having to potentially like go out, is that, what's the time process for that? Like, could we be doing that? I mean, we have an election coming up, or is that just way too fast?
It's not actually an election item. It's not a special tax. It's actually, think of it like your water bill and your water rates or your electricity
Okay.
rates. This is more of a infrastructure type
Okay.
item, which is why it becomes subject to what's known as Prop 218,
Okay,
which involves public hearings, public outreach, and then opportunities for people to protest the fee increase. And if you get over half of the people protested, then you have to move to a different step if less of them do. I have personally never been through Prop 18. This district has never been through it because Prop 18 was after the last streetlight ordinance has
Okay.
actually been done. But it is a process, like I said, it does involve public hearings that we can actually meld in with board meetings and just have a special public hearing section on
Okay.
this. And involves notice goes out to everybody who pays the streetlight
Right.
assessment.
Okay.
And we're talking about, $15 assessment. This
Right,
isn't a
right, no, I
huge-
totally understand it would be, yeah.
Yeah, but, and even if
Just
you
seems
raise
like
that
that
by
should be paying for
$5,
itself. Yeah.
you increase the revenue by 33%.
Right.
Which then carries you forward, and you don't even have to raise it, what you would do is set a new cap.
Okay.
That we could raise the cap up to $25, and then the board votes on it, toward around budget season, and says, okay, we need to increase this $3.
Right.
Or whatever
Just
the
to-
case
just
is,
to
until
always
you
hit
work
that.
your way towards that cap, but it's at a point now where just doing the bare minimum, hoping that we don't have any extra maintenance go wrong,
Right.
is costing more than you're bringing in,
Okay.
by, $700 or so.
Okay.
And that's assuming that
Nothing goes
my,
wrong.
my projections are right on PG&E, rates and everything else. That's been the biggest thing that's increased.
And the new lights that they're gonna put in the new section of the neighborhood, cause those, we approved those being different, like,
They'll actually be the exact same lights.
just a different,
They'll be the same fixtures, the same works. All of it. You talking about in this thing on the
yeah,
hillside
yeah.
here?
I thought we
No.
approved that to be a customized fixture.
No. No, the polling and stuff might be a little bit different, but
Okay,
the
that's what
actual,
I'm thinking of.
the actual fixture will wind up being the same
Same,
wattage,
okay.
same light
Okay.
color, all of that
Okay.
goes through. There's only gonna be 3 there, but that will represent 28 new assessments too.
Okay.
But again, times 15 isn't a
Right, right.
ton of money here, but it also won't increase expense that much either.
Okay.
You'll probably wind up maybe a few $100 in the black on that,
Okay.
between what you generate versus the minimal operating cost for it.
Gotcha. Perfect, thank you very much.
Yep. But I'll bring that back at a future date.
Okay.
The street
Yeah, I
lights.
just didn't know, yeah.
Yeah, no, it's
And
way
that-
too much of a process to even
The,
think
the
about.
process that you just explained makes a ton of sense and why it would be applied to that.
Yep.
Cool.
Any other questions? I don't know if Luke's got anything he wants to chime in with, or Chief? Great.
Motion to approve the budget as presented.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Comments?
Aye.
Aye.
Done.
Okay.
Okay, that's always a
Right.
time-consuming check.
Check. Bylaws, potential amendments regarding board meeting, start time and date.
Yep, so this is a carryover from last month. Last month, the board officially approved to change the meeting start time for regular meetings from 7:30 to 7. I was asked to bring back some options at looking at not only adjusting that time even earlier, but also potentially adjusting the date that the board meets. So I presented the 3 options that were there, which is option 1, the second Tuesday of the month at 6:30 instead of 7. Option 2 being the third Tuesday of the month at 7. And option 3 being the third Tuesday of the month at 6:30. And then I tried to list at the bottom, you basically have 4 potential board actions that you can have. One is basically take no action, which just keeps things exactly as they stand. Or option 1, 2, or 3 is presented in this packet. So either way, however you move, you've got everything in place here to be able to make that move. Or no move.
This was a scintillating part of the meeting that I got to view. Is there, yes, is there, the obvious piece is the other 2, the commission meetings that we play off of this, which is why we're doing either week 2 or week 3, or the second or third or whatever. Do you guys have any feeling for, is there any potential issues if we move to the third Tuesday of the month? Like in terms of how that would impact the other 2, like sometimes we need time to get something together for a commission or, things of that nature.
Did you not hear those?
In terms of impact to the commissions, I don't actually think it would impact the commissions much or what we need to get ready for that. I'm not sure if Luke has thoughts on other aspects of this, or if that's what you're asking us. I'm happy to share my personal thoughts on it a little bit
Yeah,
first.
I
but-
mean, you guys work here.
And I have just an add-on to that, I'm also wanting to know, I want to hear from each of the staff, how this would impact a change to the week and the month, how it would impact each of you.
Okay. Go ahead. You want me to-
No, well, I can go first. That's an interesting question. I hadn't considered from Chris's perspective about the interaction between the meetings, which there is some interaction between the commission meeting and the board meeting and vice versa, depending on what's on the agenda, and if there's things we're trying to implement or get information on. It's hard to, with a hypothetical, think about how that would alter. It's not very often that there's some like specific thing that there's interplay, so I don't think it would be some huge deal breaker thing where like, oh, that'll make it really hard to do, you know, X, Y, and Z. So I don't know, there's nothing off the top of my head that would,
Okay,
that
so
would make
that's,
that problematic.
okay.
It'll potentially just change things a little bit, how we, you know, what the, just sort of the rhythm of how we're reporting on things, but I don't think there's any like real major downside to having it be one week or another. For my personal life, how the different weeks would change, it's not a big adjustment for me personally, in terms of whether it's the second week or the third week. I don't have a major issue with that I would be arguing from one over the other. I would only say that I've been doing the current setup for a long time, and that I've made that work well, so that would be probably my preference if I had to pick one, but if there was a vote to shift it to the third week, that wouldn't be a huge like problematic thing for me. So.
Chief, is there any standing third Tuesday of the month things with Santa Fe, or do you see any issues with that?
Just thinking about the third Tuesday of the month, the council meetings are usually on Mondays. So I think it should be fine.
They meet on the first and third?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. And then do you see any challenges with the fire commission?
Because we meet on Tuesdays there also, right?
Yeah, the first Tuesday of every other month.
I don't think there will be an issue.
I don't see anything with either of the commissions really that would present a huge challenge. Tiffany?
It would give me another week to do claims. I do to prepare.
I've actually given this some thought, and I didn't really think about it too much until after the thing came up. To preface, I serve at the pleasure of the board. The board, if it helps keep board members or attract board members and moving a date, then I fully support it. It does make things a little bit more challenging, more on a personal level. From my workload, moving it from the second week to the third week, just on a very selfish note, that third week is always kind of a little bit more of a down week after the board meeting, in which sometimes that's when my family is taking vacation or I'm working on other business things, and then to say, okay, well, I can just switch that over to the second week because now we won't have a meeting on the second week. But the reality of the situation is the week before the board meeting is usually very busy getting everything finalized and ready for the packet that then needs to be posted that Friday, so that you all can meet. So is it insurmountable? No. Is it a deal breaker for me? No. If I'm being asked, I would probably state my own personal preference would be to keep it on the date that it is meeting on. But I would say that I would make it work no matter what, it's my job. I would make it work no matter what date you all, as a collective decided upon. And I would just say, keep it on Tuesday because there's some rhythm and functionality to that, and it works good to be able to say, okay, Fridays are when things get posted, that's actually 24 hours longer than the minimum time needed of 72 hours, you can get out 96 hours. Yeah, there's always that fallback Saturday of, if it really needs to go out Saturday afternoon, it can. But again, I work for all of you.
Well, Lucas rearranged his entire life around Tuesdays, if I'm not mistaken, that was the quote from last meeting. It was awesome, he's like, just don't change it from Tuesdays.
I don't think that severe, but.
My whole entire life works around Tuesdays.
Well, and Luke, has
Yeah.
2 different
Get it.
meetings. One a month every second Tuesday, and then another one every other fourth Tuesday. For me, I have 3. And I will say the way that we have this scheduled, and it was kind of done by design, is they kind of hit in succession. So at the end of an odd month, we have the P&R meeting. Usually the very next week is the beginning of an even month, is fire, and then the very next week is the board, which then allows other work.
Right.
You have a nice break there
Right.
in a while to actually be able to focus in on working on other projects and again, it's nothing that couldn't be figured out by any stretch. It's just a routine that we've built over
Yeah.
many years and it's worked well, but I don't have a vote. I answered all of you, I'm not gonna complain
For
either way.
sure aren't doing the 5th Tuesday?
Yeah, Tiffany actually really wants to.
That's a good point.
On the
Yeah.
32nd day of
I
each.
started to do that.
Well, there is, I think, 3 months usually out of a year where we get a 5th Tuesday, and I'm always like,
Bill?
Oh, you already know my
Okay.
thoughts.
Savon?
But Bill, can you clarify, I think you shared.
I like it the way it is.
So the way it is today, as in do nothing.
I'm old. What do you?
do you have a preference between 7 or 6:30?
6:30 or 7?
Yeah,
Doesn't matter to me.
okay.
Savon?
It's a little hard to get here at 6:30 for me, but I don't really care one way or another, I guess 6:30 or 7.
Can I interject for 1 second?
Yeah,
Because I did think a little bit about the timing, and while there's a part of, probably all of us at the table that says, ooh, 6:30, great, that gets us home that much earlier at the end of a long day. I'm also thinking about those times where we have closed session. The board typically likes to have closed session before the meeting, so that way we're not there that much longer, and it makes it that much harder. If you wanna start the meeting at 6:30, have a closed session starting at 5:30, that's giving you guys that's a crunch. That's not a sweat off my back, because I'm here
Right.
anyway.
yeah.
We would have to rearrange, basically aftercare is running in here until 6, so they would have to find a new home for 30 minutes, but that is a consideration factor. That it might, in some instances, if you move a meeting start time to 6:30, they'd say, I might come at you with some recommendations when closed session times come up, that we have it after the meeting instead. Anyway, those are my thoughts. Chris, sorry. Savon, I didn't mean to cut you off, I apologize.
No,
but-
it's important things to be said. I know that the discussion was brought up because of people's various schedules and other things that they have commitments. Or I think the 7 o'clock time is a good time considering, the hour before for a closed session if we need it.
It does keep it consistent with the commission start times too.
Yeah. In terms of the 2nd or the 3rd. I mean, I'd hate to put everybody out with making it the 3rd, just because it makes it easier to do other things for other people. Because, yes, while you serve at the pleasure of the board, at the same time, the board's not supposed to make the staff's life harder.
Yeah.
So I'm just conflicted, and so I'm just gonna be quiet for now and let everybody else talk.
But I also meant what I said at the beginning too. I mean, if this helps board members be retained onto the board or opens up more opportunities for other community members to get on the board, I actually think that has a lot of merit, because finding board members who are have the wherewithal to do this and the time to do this and are willing to dedicate themselves to it in a very limited population. It's, you know, you're fishing in a puddle. It's not a huge pool.
With that being said, I would prefer the third. Go ahead, Chris.
I'm a Luke guy in the sense that as long as it stays Tuesday, Luke, I too have rearranged my life around Tuesdays. So Mondays and Wednesdays would be off the table for me, but that's not an issue here. I think the timing doesn't matter for me, nor does it really matter the second or third. But my fear is, Lisa, if we stay on the second Tuesday, does that, I really value your role on this board, and I know you're up for re-election, and so everybody's time is limited potentially. So I would hate to say, let's do it, let's keep it on the second Tuesday, and then that, you know, puts you into a position where you're like, well, I've liked my time here, but I'm out.
But no pressure.
No, I'm just curious, I mean, that's
No,
kind of,
I-
I get it, when our kids were younger, and if we both had things on a night, you know, it makes for a very difficult evening, and yet you and your husband are doing a tremendous service to our greater community by both volunteering.
Thank you, and I appreciate that, and I will say, you know, for the last 18 months, we've made it work. Since we both had board positions with, you know, the same meetings at the same time. You know, and in my time here, I've missed one board meeting in the 3.5 years that I've been on this board. Thanks for the applause, Stephen. So I don't anticipate that, this factor in and of itself would keep me
Gotcha.
from running again.
Okay, thank you, appreciate that.
Excuse me, did you open up the meeting already? And
Yeah,
you're-
we did it
Seven.
7.
I see, okay, I guess I missed it. So is there gonna be any opportunity for the public to talk, or are you talking among yourselves today?
Well, we are on agenda item district matters number 3, or number 2. So as soon as we're done discussing it, then I can open up to public comment.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, I guess I'll go. So, I can't agree, in the position that I am in my work world, this year happens to fall on the 15th on both Tuesdays, and it's really hard for me, especially October. So knowing that I would miss that meeting in October, I can't agree to change that Tuesday, because I don't like missing meetings either. And so I like it where it currently is. 6:30, I do agree, is too early for me, just again, for my work hours. So I'm at a no change as we currently are with starting at 7 a.m. because we're not changing that back. So I may keep it as it is. 7 a.m. But my one question is what do we need, Eric, to change this?
Somebody would need to make a motion, somebody would need to second it, and then you'd have a vote.
What's the majority?
3.
Okay. All right.
But you need a motion for one of these very specific options.
No, I get that. I just
Right.
wanted to make sure
Or
it
do
wasn't
nothing needs no
a-
motion.
Correct.
And
Does,
doing no motion means
Stays.
second Tuesday at 7.
Correct.
Correct, it
Stays as it
stays.
is now.
it dies. Any other comments? Or questions or concerns or?
I may have a conflict starting in November.
There's 3 options.
When you say conflict, you're saying,
And I guess
Go ahead.
I know where you're going. This is also something that we could we could bring this back,
That's what,
even
that's
if we
what
do nothing now.
Okay.
This is something we
Yeah, I
can do
just didn't
later.
wanna make
Yeah.
it fully, yeah, thank you.
So yes, that's an option for us to do nothing now, and then if we choose to bring it back, the language is already there, we could just make it an agenda item again, correct? Okay.
We can do this every month if you guys really want to. Yeah.
I motion to keep it as we discussed on the April 9th board meeting, just moving the start time to 7 PM on the second Tuesday of the month.
But you've already done that.
That's it.
That's where we're
So
at. That's
that's
what
it.
we-
That's what you approved.
That's what I'm
That's
saying.
not motion.
Right, okay, so
But you
then
wouldn't
I'll be
have a
quiet,
motion.
then
Right.
I'll, yeah. That's what I said, I motion to keep it as we discussed it on. Sorry. I'll just be
So there
quiet.
would be no change?
No change.
Okay, no other, oh, no. No other motions?
I'm okay to keep it as is for now. But thank you for entertaining the option.
I just wanted to make sure. All you, public comment.
Oh, well, thank you. First of all, I want to congratulate Lisa for probably the best attendance record of all CSD directors. I appreciate that. I'm sorry I'm disengaged. I know that probably you guys aren't sorry that I'm disengaged, but I hope that any decision that you make just entertains a possibility that how it affects the public. Not me, I'm one member of the public. I mean the whole community. It's so frustrating. I mean, you guys, this is kind of a joke as far as a democratic process. All of you were appointed. There was no competitive election. You're good people. It just means, but there has been so little outreach. For years I've asked, and Bill can attest to this, and so can Saban, that just simply put out a signboard saying, meetings second Tuesday, 7 PM. That's pretty typical in most communities. We don't do that. Why not? It's not the cost. It's that you don't want people here. Because no one asks any questions and you get to do what you want to do. We're building a Gaga pit, great. How's the pickleball and the park benches? Not happening. It's not happening. You guys have a responsibility, and I think if this means anything to you and it means anything to your children and anything to the community, anything for your heart, you should be reaching out to the public and trying to get public input here. Anyhow, that's all I have to say. Trash bags have not been, the doggy trash bags hadn't been picked up like for 3 or 4 days last week. There's all kinds of just deferred maintenance that I see, and it's frustrating. And well, you know, we have a nice big expensive garden shed, and Bill Hansel is Richard Ford, and I guess you're going to be hiring him for, again, to arrange our music. Whatever, guys, whatever. Oh, it's so hard, isn't it? It's so hard to be outreach. Yes, it is district business.
It is. Okay, I was
Okay.
wondering if.
I will shut up, Bill, because obviously you don't want to actually have a conversation with the public, and you're part of the problem. And I know exactly who you are, Bill,
Stephen?
and the drunks that follow you around, okay?
Stephen?
Our drunks are
No.
on Friday nights, and now they're on Thursday nights, thanks to this board, okay? We're getting more drunks in the park.
Thank you, Stephen.
Have a good night,
You too.
and I will see you next month.
7 o'clock.
Thanks. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you. Okay.
So just so I'm clear, no
No
motion,
action.
no action on this item at this point in time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Item number 3.
Yeah, this is just
You
a
again.
quick ministerial item here in that, a little bit of a heads up that we do have 3 seats coming up for the election in November. The 3 people whose terms are ending are listed on my staff report. However, there is a formality that we need to go through, and that is approving the attached resolution as it is presented, because it has very specific language in it. And then this will get filed with the elections department, so that way will be included on the November election. Just some of the pertinent dates that I did put on here: candidate filing dates begin July 15th through August 9th. If one or more incumbent does not file during this period, then the date stretches to August 14th for non-incumbents only. If all 3 incumbents file during this period, then the close-off date for everybody becomes August 9th. And then sometime mid-June, they will release a thorough candidate manual, but that's not out yet.
Okay. Any questions? Any comments?
I think it's great that we're going to have an election.
Wonderful, Bill, thank you. You have to approve it?
Yes, we do.
You need a motion to
All
approve,
right,
second
I
vote.
move that we approve resolution 2024-03 as written.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passed. Yeah, we're busy today, passing a whole bunch of stuff.
I'll get through this really quickly, so that way we can also let the chief get to his report and get Luke and call it a night. On the creek bank repair, I kind of touched on it earlier. Everything has been completed, notice of completions have been filed and submitted to all of the regulatory agencies as well as the county. I actually have the county coming out tomorrow for a final inspection. So looking just to kind of close off the permit and close off all the regulatory permits on that. There is a 5-year monitoring period on the regulatory for the environmental. Basically requires an annual report stating that everything is still holding and looking good and staying according to plan. The big one here that we got hit with at the end of April, our longtime payroll provider, AccuChecks, is closing up shop, which is a bummer because payroll is a lot of work and switching providers is a lot of work. And we're entering at the worst possible time that we could have to be dealing with all of this stuff. My understanding in looking at everything and talking to people is that they're not just giving us a drop dead deadline, but they do want to know that we have an agreement in place, we have a roadmap, and AccuChecks will continue to support us through the end of our busy season. We're kind of looking at a mid-September conversion, ideally with the go live date with the first payroll of October, which will be a nice, separates out at a quarter point. So I don't have 2 different agencies looking at tax filings and everything else. But we have to move on. We've had several meetings with ADP. Tiffany and I had a meeting this morning with Paychecks. The little mom and pop shops really aren't equipped to do our needs. You know, we have 250 plus employees at our busy times. We have complex payroll, especially on the safety side, with a lot of the special comp, the FLSA, the overtime. Luckily for us, payroll, we don't really use for all of our benefits outside of accrual management. But this is what's going to keep Tiffany and I also busy until we kind of get this finalized. But we're moving forward with it and we'll get it done. So it's a headache. That we wouldn't have just said, let's change payroll providers. But it is, in my opinion, I know we do all these services and everything, but we're a service-based agency. Our employees are our greatest asset. Payroll is the single most important thing that, in my mind, that we have and that we do, and you gotta make sure people get paid on time and properly. So we'll do our due diligence on this. The nice thing is both of the groups we have talked to have said that they will match pricing for at least the next 18 months with AccuChecks, which is nice. Yes?
So, do we have a sense of what the price difference would be after 18 months?
Not entirely, But we also wouldn't be locked into a contract, so if something goes completely screwy, we can always go again. But they're gonna be very similar to each other as far as pricing goes.
Right.
And really, it's one saying our platform is better than their platform, and it's the other saying, no, our platform is better than their platform.
Right.
I've been very, very open in my conversations, especially with ADP, and I've let ADP know that I actually initiated a walk away from ADP to a different thing because your customer service was so bad. I sat on the phone on hold for hours just waiting, so I've been very clear and very open, and like, we've changed all that, you have a single point of contact, because I will say, while AccuChecks is antiquated, their system is not very user-friendly, and I think we'll have an automatic upgrade to either of these two systems. Their customer support is top-notch, AAA. I mean, we call them, they almost always, our direct rep answers the phone. We send them an email, we get a response in an hour. They are working on our stuff quickly, so that, I've been very clear that
That's expectation.
our priorities are ease and efficiency of the system, customer service, price. In that order. I'm not gonna squabble over a few $1,000s a year
Yeah.
if you're gonna provide me with superior customer service and a better platform system. And the platform system, I mean, that's really Tiffany, she's where the rubber meets the asphalt there, so they've been walking her through some trials. We've been requesting to set us up kind of a dummy platform so she can get in there and fiddle with it, see how it works, how it rolls. But there are some opportunities for growth here too. We have very antiquated time systems on how we kind of track and manage time, to be able to get into a more automated time system of, cloud-based, clocking in, clocking out, so that it's all already there. We don't have crazy stacks of paper timesheets that 16-year-old kids are filling out with some number that, is that a 3 or is that a 5 or is that a 2? I can't tell. It gives us a chance to grow up, and unfortunately, AccuChecks didn't have those options available for us either, that were worse than what we're already doing. So there is, I'm trying to find the silver lining, and I think in the long run, this will be a decent move. It's gonna be a lot of work and a lot of headache until we get that go live going. And then the only other items of note, I know we had talked about the handbook. I know both Lisa and Savon had volunteered to help work on that. I was hoping with some of these other things coming off, but right now I'm moving my attention to payroll because it's mission critical, and we have a handbook that's not that old right now. We will get to it. It is an important item. Just let us get this payroll thing ironed out first. And then I know the chief probably talked about it a little bit, but we're back on track to do the goat grazing. And that'll be happening, I believe, probably right at the beginning of June. So likely before we start meeting, the goats will start moving out there again too. So I will use that as a segue unless there's any questions.
Any questions, comments, concerns?
Perfect.
All right, thank you. All you.
Good evening. First of all, let me apologize for not getting the stats out to you or the report out to you a little sooner. Been having a little bit of difficulty with, I'm having challenges with my workload right now. But it seems I'm stabilizing now, and a little bit of status on myself. I will be going to a couple of interviews on the 22nd for the full-time position for fire chief. After the 22nd, hopefully I'll find out at that point, and then if I get the blessing, stuff like that, then, soon after I'll probably get the announcement to the fire chief. If I screw it up, then I'll be the deputy chief. So back here anyway.
But if you get it right, you'll be able to hire a deputy chief, and you won't be doing both jobs.
Yeah. One of the things I do plan on doing is holding off on, if I do get the fire chief position, is not hiring a deputy position for a little bit and hiring the EMS chief, the battalion chief position, which I desperately need right now. There's just so many issues around EMS that I need to get that stabilized and then coming back. And I also believe that there's probably some cost revenue savings that I have, or increased cost revenue through our ambulance building to be able to offset some of those costs. So I'm trying to do that, so then I come back with at least the deputy chief position, and then I can totally outline the priorities and everything like that. So I do have a master plan in my head. I just need a little help with it right now. Nonetheless, I do have the stats here and I'll pass those around. In addition, what I'm also gonna pass around is a letter that I got from the fire chief from the city of South San Francisco, thanking us for some of the work that Engine 58 did on one of their firefighter paramedics that was involved in an accident on February 20th. So it's a letter of gratitude. So I'll pass those people along. In addition to that, and for those of you that want to know, Engine 58's average response time is 5 minutes 39 seconds, but it's written in there. So I know it's a big deal, and now that I know it's a big deal, I'll highlight that for sure. The other thing.
They like keeping it.
Oh yeah, no, they're. We do have the survivors reunion this week, which one of our crews from Engine 58 will be acknowledged for life-saving skills on a cardiac save down at Los Gatos at the YMCA.
Oh.
So they're going to be acknowledged on this Thursday. We did have a fire on Appleberry the other day. I was the incident commander on that one. I was on my way home, and that fire. It was a relatively small fire. Engine 58 got on it pretty fast and was able to pull some hose lines and definitely limited the damage. So definitely see what a fast response is in this area for sure. The damage was limited to the exterior of one house and then a window and a little bit of the outside house and then the fence and a bunch of stuff that was along the fence line. But super great attack, very aggressive attack. You know, they don't have a whole lot of backup real fast, so for 3 folks to get a line stretch, get a hydrant going, and getting both the line stretch actually they pulled 2 lines. Actually, one of the engineers pulled the line to extinguish the fire on the exterior, while the other engine company went inside to extinguish the fire on the inside and also start the primary search to see if there were any victims. Luckily, there were no victims. The family was out at the time, or were extricated or evacuated at the time of the fire. So, and the other house also had family members in there with kids and everything like that. So both houses were occupied with children, and all those folks got out probably at the same time as Engine 58 was on the scene. So it was a really fast response. So really have to credit their tactics and their speed and professionalism with them. A little bit with the as far as vegetation management, Simon, the Blackstone project with the 100-foot buffer. Looking forward to doing that here, working that in probably September, something like that.
Yes, basically right after nesting bird season ends.
Yeah. If we do after nesting bird season, it's a big deal because it costs less. We don't have to have people out there looking at that, and it's a big deal.
It's like the title.
I would want the birds
Nesting bird
to
season.
Yeah. So after nesting bird season, which we have another project going around right now that's not after nesting bird season, and it's causing us a great deal of problems. We literally have to go out there every day and see if there's any nesting birds out there. But this is a great project here to create that 100-foot buffer around some residential area. So we're starting to get a lot of work done, which is really good work. We're hoping that this will be highlighted as we start seeing more insurances start canceling, want to cancel homeowners type of insurance and stuff. But now we're trying to see, hopefully we can turn that around with some of the aggressive action that we're taking for the defensive actions that we're taking now. So hoping that that'll keep on going. So far we haven't heard of any Marin County cancellations yet. And Sonoma County where I live, there's all sorts of cancellations just going back and forth.
I've heard of some
Yeah.
in the high severe
Yeah.
fire zones. Not necessarily, I haven't heard of any in Marinwood
Mhm.
per se. Most of these are kind of south, Kentfield,
Okay.
Mount Tam area.
I can see
where-
those areas, yeah.
Right.
But we're hoping that we won't get to that point, and then certainly this aggressive action that we're taking now will definitely give us credit for it, and hopefully insurances will see that we're actually doing work to prevent the fire.
Cool.
Perfect.
And that's in the report. Anybody have any questions?
Not about the report, but I have a general question. With all, considering our department and our truck, and with the developments that may be going in, are we going to need to upgrade our truck to have a ladder? Like, what is the point, like at what height of a building does that involve us upgrading the ladder, changing how many people are on our crew? Like, I'm just wondering, like, what's the impact gonna be?
Yeah. And then, believe it or not, we're having the same conversation in San Rafael right now. So the stations were built in status where we weren't gonna get any growth and development. So even the fire stations are, even though they're brand new stations,
Yeah.
they're undersized. And we haven't expanded from our typical dispatch, or excuse me, typical manpower force. We still have the same thing that we had 30 years ago. So this is something we're engaging in through standards of coverage to see what we're actually gonna need. You know, as a fire chief, I can tell you what we need, but I don't have anything to solidify that request or that other than just what I feel I need. I will tell you this, that in the city of Berkeley, we had a fairly dramatic growth in a rapid amount of time. And we went from, as we did the standards of coverage, they quickly went that we needed 3 additional engine companies, an additional ladder truck company, and 6 additional ambulances. Mind you, there was already 7 engines, 2 ladder trucks, and 4 ambulances. So that was in addition to that. So I think a lot of that conversation we're gonna have to have that conversation starting with Eric and then figure out how developers, how they're gonna take that. One of the things that we're running against is obviously the legislature around urban development.
Yeah.
That's a problem. It's a problem because we don't have a whole lot of say in it. All we can do is how to basically make it as safe as we can, but
Yeah.
we don't have any kind of say on the growth or anything like that. So all those are issues that we're gonna look at. As far as the height, the ones that are projected, I believe that I saw were 3-story.
3 stories.
3-story, typically we don't do anything for it as far as ladder truck. You know, the ladder truck only goes 100 feet. So you know, there's not a whole lot we can do. But one of the things I am concerned with is that when there's density, there's need for density in public safety also. So they fall one in one. I'll give you a quick example. So if I had this piece of property here, and this is my house right now, and I go to medical aid there, typically I don't go there maybe once every 20 years. You know, as they start aging, people start aging a little bit, we start going to calls a little more often there. So that stays like that. But now I put in a structure that's not this big. I have multiple families in there. The response time from the point of the fire station to the property line is the same. What changes is how long it takes me to get to that 3rd-story building, especially if that bedroom with that cardiac arrest is at the furthest side. That's where it's an issue. So, and that's where I don't care to sacrifice the quality of life of somebody that's calling 911 by all this development. But once again, we're really limited on what we can actually do on there. It's been a constant battle throughout the state, but I'm confident as we start having more conversations with developers that we'll figure something out for sure. And certainly having some kind of overall objective of what we need to meet as far as that standard. But one of the inherent problems that we don't necessarily have a standard in Santa Fe or Marinwood. We need to create that standard as far as response times, what we desire as a community, what our community desires, what's an accurate response time that we want, or any number of things. But right now we need to kind of develop those, and right now we're in an opportune time. One of the things that also, I go refer back to my previous occupation in Berkeley, we didn't capture that. And all of a sudden now we're way past that. We're running in college and all that stuff, and now we realize, hey, guess what, guys? You probably should have done that 10 years ago or 20 years ago. So we're not at that phase yet. We're in the phase where we actually probably do something about it now. Or at the very least acknowledge it and know that in the future we're gonna have to do something.
Is that typically like a cost that is built in with the developer to try to, so that they cover that?
It could be any number of things.
Okay.
It could be.
So that is a possibility to build.
It is
that
a
cost in.
possibility, but I'm not, it's a lot of conversation
Right.
that you and the county are gonna have to figure out if there's funding there available for that. I mean, in theory, we're very vulnerable to the fact that we don't have a lot of say into it.
Right.
Okay.
And I think, Chris, what you're referring to is like impact fees. And there's actually, this is being talked about by the courts and legislation on the ability of agencies to impose impact fees
Right.
as kind of being a kneecap. So it's certainly things to keep eyes on.
Sure.
And then when you're looking at, kind of nonprofit focused, affordable housing, your ability to impose impact fees is even less, as opposed to large developments. But I mean, the courts are, if anything, I think that's really being clamped down upon, so that cities, agencies, fire districts can't just start throwing around, demanding impact fees on things. It's, well, you'll get the additional tax revenue from whatever it is, figure it out from there, kind of
Sales
a
tax.
thing. Right.
That was a concept that I had, oh, you paid extra sales tax. It really doesn't equate to like money in the fire
Right.
department to add additional staffing,
Yeah.
which is at the end of the day, that's kind of what we need, is additional staffing.
Right.
Okay.
And we don't generate any sales tax from any of that, so.
Now, we have some special taxes that would be positively impacted by these things, but to the chief's point, even at 125 units times whatever it is, that certainly doesn't equal another engine company.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And it doesn't come close.
Right.
So, but you kind of tackle them as they come, proposal and development at a time.
Nothing's.
But the chief and I have actually talked, I mean, and this was back, months and months ago, a year ago, about, kind of looking at some of the studies he's talking about and partnering in on doing some of these studies, and going from there. So that'll continue. Those are usually done by third-party, outfits that'll come in. Consultants and look at everything, and there are some that are actually been doing a lot of this for a lot of the agencies in Marin, they're very familiar with what's happening in Marin, so, more to come on that.
Sorry to open the can of worms, I was just really wondering.
No, it's a legit concern, it's a concern for me, every day that I look at the newspaper.
Right.
Especially with the building they're putting downtown San Rafael, not too far away from the new fire.
Don't give them more heartburn.
Yeah, had we
West
known.
America Bank, gone.
Yeah. It's supposed to be an 8-story
Gonna
building.
be a big one there.
Right.
Yeah, I don't see an 8-story building coming from Marin, but,
Never know
not
nowadays.
yet, yeah.
Don't
It's
jinx us.
unfortunate to do it.
Alright, thank you, chief.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for
Appreciate
running
it.
out here.
Luke, are you ready?
Well, I mean, eventually.
It's still Tuesday.
Have a good night.
Take care.
Thank you.
Yes, I am ready. Thank you,
Okay.
Kathleen. Thanks, everybody. Yeah, so things going on in the recreation department this past month. We had our annual spring art show on April 27th, which was awesome. It was I think it's hard to remember because we've had a lot of these shows now, but it was among our best attended and one of my favorite ones. The place was just packed and
Yeah, it was.
it's been a great turnout and a lot of wonderful artwork, and it's really turned into just a really lovely event over the years. And it brings a totally different crowd than we get at a lot of our other events, and it's a really nice offering that we have in the spring and fall, and I'm really grateful for it. And I just want to thank Susan Press, who's our art director, who helps us put these shows on, for organizing it and bringing a lot of really good artists out. And it's a really high quality show. We have a good reputation in the art community in Marin for putting on a really, even though it's only a one-day show, which is really short for an art show, which is we're limited because we use this building for so many other things. But it's got a reputation in the Marin art world for being a really high quality show. We're really proud of that, and it's always a blast. So this one was one of our best ones. I'm really proud of that, and we're happy about that. Our next special events are the next one would be our first Music in the Park installment, which will be Friday, June 28th, and that runs every other Friday in the summer. And then in the middle of that, we have our Summer Brew Fest. So we're making a bunch of plans for those and getting all the details in place. We pretty much have the lineup ready for the Music in the Park. I'll definitely announce that, and we'll have that
And
up.
you're the one doing it this year, right?
Well, it's a recreation department.
Well, I'm
effort,
just
but,
saying that we have
yes,
an outside person helping with booking this year. This is
Yeah,
step one.
Bill Hansel took it upon himself and volunteered to book the Summer Music Series for the last, I think he did it for 11 years. It was a huge undertaking, and I'm realizing now how big of an undertaking that really was as we kind of took it internally. And there's a lot of things that go into that, and he did a really wonderful job, and I appreciate him at the time, but I appreciate the work he did and the volunteer work he did so much more, having gone through a season of that. So we'll have all that info out. I don't have it at my fingertips, I could like rattle off bands and stuff, but we'll put the posters out and announce that, and I'll have that for you guys at the next meeting for sure. But we've got a really good lineup, and I'm really excited for the summer series, and as well for the Brew Fest. So stay tuned for more details about that. And in other news, summer camp registration continues to be really strong. We right now we're kind of in like wait list management mode. Not everything's full, but we're marketing the various weeks and age groups. There's not a lot of openings, but there are still some, and we're trying to get the word out to those people that they can still sign up if they have that particular age group in those weeks. But we also have just a ton of people making their summer plans and canceling, and the people moving up in the wait list. And it's actually a lot of work to try to keep our enrollment full. You know, it just takes a lot of contact with people on the waiting list and letting them respond and taking that, and there's a lot of movement around and transferring, and it's kind of all day, every day, just trying to keep the spots filled and get the word out to the people that want them. And Carolyn takes the brunt of that in the office, and she's just all day, every day, just dealing with wait lists and summer camps, and it takes a lot to keep those. But it's going really well, and we're trying to get all the spots to the people that need them. So it's been going really well, and enrollment is really strong. So we're feeling really good about that. The other thing that's been going on in the last few weeks is a ton of staff trainings. We have, I know you guys know, we have like 250 plus part-time employees that help us put on the summer. Mostly, the bulk of those are in the campsite, and we have also a large pool staff. And Robin has been running these giant CPR classes like every couple weeks to try to get everybody through CPR and first aid training. And it's a lot to get all of those people trained before summer starts. And Robin's been doing that with some help from some of our lifeguard instructors and some other staff. But it's a lot of work, and it's been going really well. And I want to give Robin credit for putting the time and effort in to make sure that we have a summer camp staff that has tip-top safety training. We require all of our staff to be certified in professional rescuers, CPR, and first aid. I know that's not a universal thing. A lot of other camp programs do not require that. They do some cursory things, and our staff is very highly trained by comparison, and I'm very proud of that. But it does take a lot of work to get all of them through that before summer starts. And similarly, John Bolton running the pool staff through trainings, trying to get the spring staff where they need to be, and then we'll have a bunch of really big full staff trainings right before summer starts. So all that's going really well, but it's been a lot of work, and we've had a lot of people coming back from college helping us out with some of those. It's been great to have the extra help. So things are getting a lot easier, and as we get through summer, we'll have a lot more help, which has been great. But the pool season's been going great. We've finally got some consistent nice weather. There's been a ton of people at the pool, which is really good, and a lot of good lifeguards working. So kudos to John Paul for keeping the show going down there. The next big thing is we have our counselors in training and regards and training programs for like middle school age kids that have aged out of camp but aren't quite old enough to get real jobs for us. They have a chance to have sort of like an internship program where they work in the camps and work at the pool helping with swim lessons. And their big trainings will be coming up at the end of this month. So we're getting applications for that now and working on that. So all that's going great, and feeling good about our preparation for the summer season. On the maintenance and park side of all that, some of the big news Eric mentioned earlier in his report about our pool pump motor, and it's definitely been getting louder and louder. I don't know if anyone's been out the pool, you hear this kind of rumble from the equipment room, but thankfully everything's still working, and I'm assuming it's going to keep working until our repairs are complete. But we definitely have a bearing going out in our pump motor, which is unfortunate timing coming into summer. We last replaced that motor, I think, in 2017, which I feel like that's way too soon, but on the other hand, it runs 24 hours a day, 365 days a year, and so it gets a ton of use. And I'm talking to different contractors and different people in the industry about that. It sounds like that's a very normal timeline. Thankfully, as Eric mentioned, we have things in place to get that replaced before the summer, and without having to cancel any big programs or anything. We'll do it during the week, and hopefully have very minimal impact on our pool programs. We're just waiting on the parts to show up, and we're hopefully gonna have that work completed the last week of this month. It might drift into the week following that, but we're trying our best to get it done as quickly as possible. Our motor has been replaced, with the pump housing, with the impeller and all the other things are ancient, I think potentially original, and are way past their lifespan. So we're gonna get the whole housing and everything replaced, and we should be in really good shape moving forward for a long time. So I'm excited for that. I'm just hoping that it all falls into place in the timeline that works the best, and we'll keep you guys updated on all of that. We also got a new shower down at the pool this last month to replace our very leaky, very drippy, very inconsistent and malfunctioning shower from, I don't even know when that was installed, but decades ago. So the new shower is in place, it's working, it's saving us water, it's not dripping, it has limited, you can kind of push a button and then it stops, and you gotta push the button again, so it doesn't just, people can't leave the shower running and walk away and never come back. I'm like, what's that noise? Oh, the shower's been going on for half an hour. So it's gonna save us a lot of water, which is great, and it's working really well. And I wanna thank John Paul for kind of spearheading, finding the right shower, finding one that's compatible with all of our plumbing so that we can install it easily, and getting that kind of hammered out the kinks. So it's kind of a John Paul with the parks maintenance staff kind of collaborative project, and it went really well. So we're really excited about finally having a new shower that's working well. So that's been good. Stephen mentioned we're putting together not a new goggle ball pit, but the old original goggle ball pit's being reassembled in the north end of the park, where it used to be before we did all the construction and had the containers and our temporary maintenance shop out there. We moved it around a few times, and then it went into storage, and we refurbished it, and now it's finally coming back as the big brother of the one that you see out here.
Yep.
So I've done a lot of work just kind of preparing the area, putting some drainage in to make sure that it's not a big mud puddle when it rains, and making sure that everything's going to stay in good condition. And I think that's pretty much assembled. It should be all complete tomorrow. So we're excited about having that ready for the camps. So we'll have two options for that. That's like one of our most popular games that the camps play, as well as our after-school program and some of our other programs. So that'll be a really big benefit for that program this summer to have that down there. So and besides that, the staff have been working really hard on getting the turf in good shape. They did some aerating, seeding, and fertilizing in the last few weeks. They've been making sure all the irrigation's working well, and everything's looking really robust for the summer. Right now we're seeing a little bit of spot treatment, and some of the spots where the off-leash dogs in the morning have been digging up things in some of our gopher areas. But ultimately, the turf is looking some of the best. It's in the best condition I've seen going into the summer in a long time. So I'm feeling really good about that and happy with how things are going there. That's all I wanted to touch on in our report, but please let me know if anyone has any other questions. Thank you.
Nope, nothing bad though.
No, the art show was exceptional.
Any questions or concerns?
It was great. Looking forward to music in the park again.
Yeah.
That's gonna be fun.
We
Thank
just
you,
know
Luke.
that it'll be windy.
Oh, yeah.
It's always a good luck, like a good luck charm. Windy is gonna be a good show.
Yeah. Alright. Thank you, Luke. Any board member items of interest for future agenda items?
I just wanted to let everyone know that Les Mises is gonna be this Saturday, and it'll be here after the service.
What does that mean?
You want that as a future agenda item?
No, what
It's
time?
recognition that I
What,
won.
when they say after the service here, what time do you think that will be?
What time's the service, 11?
I'm guessing.
I think it's the last service at 1,
One,
yeah. At
Oh.
State as well.
so I'm
Mass is
guessing
at 1,
between 2 and 3.
Yeah.
2:30?
I can come here.
Right. Family said
I don't.
to dress like Les.
Oh, God.
What does that mean?
Less.
Anything that has Disney on it, you'll be hitting it.
Disney,
Mickey
Disney
attire.
and Hawaiian,
Okay.
bright colors, so they were wanted to make it very clear to anyone who wanted to attend that it is not your
Celebration of
traditional
life.
morning clothes.
So
It's like-
here's Yours did.
He would have loved that, yes, absolutely.
Yeah, he definitely would
Yeah.
have loved
You
that.
know those dress that you can buy in the dress shop at Disneyland? You could do one of those.
So many
Oh,
of
what
our
it's about.
Christmas.
Right.
All Disney,
Yes.
everything's Disney,
Yes.
so. No future agenda items?
Not for me.
Just the streetlights, I would think. We want to put that somewhere along the line.
Yeah,
We're addressing it right now? To start the thing?
I think we've got to get the ball
Well, it's gonna be a
rolling
process,
on
right?
it,
yeah.
I don't know if I'll have it all put together by the next
Oh, no,
meeting.
no, no,
but-
But at least just the.
I know what you're saying, just looking at that and
Yeah,
this.
and general updates on the various things
In
that
the
we're
coming
juggling.
future
yeah.
here.
Yeah.
And just general
Okay.
updates on the things we're juggling, right? Alright.
Okay. Meeting adjourned at 8:16.
But it's too early.
Thank you.